The seed of curiosity. Have you ever noticed that every question you ask is like a tiny seed of wisdom waiting to grow? Think back for a moment to when you were a child. Didn't you constantly ask why? About everything. The clouds, the rain, the way leaves fall gently to the ground? And if you think that's just childish curiosity, the truth is, it's much more than that. It's the very beginning of wisdom. Curiosity is the spark that lights the path toward understanding. And every question you ask is a little invitation for your mind to explore and grow. I remember a story about a child who never stopped asking questions. One rainy afternoon, the child looked at the falling raindrops and asked their mother, "Why does rain make everything wet?" The mother smiled, gently replied, "Because water falls from the clouds, and water makes everything wet." But the child didn't stop there. Where does the water come from? Why do clouds form? What makes it rain sometimes and not others? Each answer from the mother sparked another question. One question led to another, and before long, the child was seeing the world not just as it is, but as something full of mystery, something to explore. And that is how wisdom begins, through curiosity, through the courage to ask, and the patience to listen for answers. In Buddhist teachings, wisdom isn't just about knowing facts or memorizing information. True wisdom starts with self-understanding. It begins when we allow ourselves to question, to reflect, and to seek the deeper truth behind what we see and experience. Every question you ask, no matter how small or simple it may seem, is a seed. And like any seed, it needs care. It needs patience, attention, and a heart that is open and ready to learn. Sometimes, the most ordinary questions can lead to extraordinary discoveries. Questions like, "Why do I feel anxious sometimes?" Or "Why does seeing a flower bloom make me happy?" These aren't just idle thoughts. They are doors to understanding yourself, your emotions, and even your connection to the world around you. In our busy modern lives, it's easy to get swept away by routines, information, and distractions, forgetting the simple act of asking and observing. Yet it is precisely in these moments of reflection, when we pause and let ourselves wonder, that our curiosity can lead us to profound insights. So how do we nurture these seeds of wisdom? It can be simpler than we think. Take a moment to jot down the questions that arise in your mind. Observe the world closely. Read, explore, and engage in conversations with people who inspire you. And most importantly, never belittle your questions, no matter how small they may seem. Every question has the potential to open a new window, a new perspective. Curiosity doesn't just lead to knowledge. It cultivates wisdom, the kind that helps you understand not just the world, but also yourself. Look around, and you'll see that every great discovery in history, from science, art, to philosophy, began with a simple question: why? How? What if? These questions are the first sparks of curiosity that ignite the journey of understanding. Today, I invite you to start with just one question in your own life. Ask it. Watch it. Give it space to grow. Let it guide you, gently but persistently, toward new insights. Remember, every question you ask is a seed of wisdom. And when you nurture that seed, through observation, reflection, and open-hearted exploration, it begins to sprout, gradually transforming your understanding of yourself and the world. Curiosity is not a distraction. It is the beginning of every meaningful journey. So let yourself wonder, let yourself question, and watch as your mind blooms with understanding, one question at a time. The art of listening to learn. Imagine a quiet scene. A person sitting in meditation by a calm river. The water moves gently, reflecting the light of the sun, and the air is filled with a soft, almost imperceptible hum of nature. In this stillness, there is something more than silence. It is an openness, a presence, a space where listening becomes more than a mechanical act. This is the art of listening to learn. We often think we are listening, but how many times do we truly hear? True listening goes beyond the sounds entering our ears. It is listening with the mind and heart, being fully present with what is happening, without rushing to respond or judge. In Buddhist teachings, mindfulness in listening, samasati, is considered essential for wisdom to arise. When we listen deeply, we allow understanding to grow, not just in knowledge, but in insight. Let me share a story. There was a teacher who noticed that her students often listened only to respond, not to understand. One day, she asked them to sit by the river and simply listen. "Listen to the water," she said. "Listen to the wind, to the trees. Don't think about your answer. Don't prepare your reply. Just be present and receive." At first, The students were restless. Their minds wandered. But slowly, as the minutes passed, something shifted. They began to notice patterns in the ripples, the subtle rustling of leaves, even the rhythm of their own breath. And with this noticing came insight, not intellectual knowledge, but a deep, intuitive understanding. That is the power of listening fully. Listening is not just a practice. It is a way of seeing the world. Every conversation, every sound, every moment is an opportunity to understand. And yet, in our fast-paced, information-saturated world, we often listen only superficially. We hear the words, but we do not catch the meaning. We react before we understand. We judge before we observe. The result is a fragmented understanding, and wisdom cannot grow in a soil that is hurried or distracted. Think about your own life for a moment. How often do you interrupt? How often do you think about your next response while someone is speaking? And how different would it be if, instead, you just listened, really listened? Not only would you understand others more deeply, but you would also learn more about yourself. Because listening, truly listening, opens a mirror. It reflects our own thoughts, assumptions, and blind spots, helping us grow. Mindful listening also teaches patience. When we slow down to listen, we learn that understanding cannot be forced. We learn that every story, every perspective, every voice has its own pace. Wisdom grows not in the rush to answer, but in the calm attention to what is being expressed. It grows in noticing the unsaid, the subtle, the quiet truths that are often overlooked. And here's a subtle truth many of us forget. Listening is an act of generosity. To truly listen, we give our presence, our attention, and our respect. In giving this space, we not only honor others, but we cultivate our own awareness. It is through this awareness, this mindful attention, that insight begins to blossom. You may start noticing patterns in your thoughts, uncovering hidden assumptions, or recognizing emotional habits that influence your actions. So, how do we practice mindful listening in daily life? It can be as simple as pausing before responding, taking a breath, and really attending to the person speaking. Notice not only their words but also their tone, their body language, the emotions behind what they are saying. Observe without judgment. Allow silence when it naturally arises. Reflect internally, but resist the urge to immediately correct, advise, or respond. Over time, this becomes a habit, and with habit comes deeper wisdom. I often find that when I listen mindfully, even a short conversation can feel transformative. I see nuances I would have missed. I understand motives, fears, and joys in ways that words alone cannot convey. And in turn, I am able to respond with clarity, compassion, and insight. Listening, you see, is not passive. It is an active cultivation of understanding. It is the soil in which the seeds of wisdom planted by curiosity begin to grow. In Buddhist thought, it is said, before you speak, listen. Before you judge, observe. This simple guidance reminds us that wisdom does not arise from impulsive speech or quick reactions. It arises from attention, presence, and care. And the most profound insights often emerge in the quiet moments, when we simply listen. So today, I invite you to practice listening, not just with your ears, but with your full presence. Notice the sounds around you, the words people speak, and even the silence in between. Pay attention to your own reactions, your own thoughts, and allow yourself to simply receive what is there. In doing so, you create the fertile ground for wisdom to take root. Before you speak, listen. Before you judge, observe. And in that mindful attention, you will find the beginnings of understanding, insight, and true wisdom. Listening is more than hearing. It is a way of being in the world. It is a choice to be present, to be curious, and to allow wisdom to emerge naturally. And just as a seed needs water and sunlight to grow, so too does curiosity need the nourishment of mindful listening to flourish. Today, take a moment. Pause. Breathe. Listen. And watch as understanding begins to bloom, slowly, quietly, yet profoundly, in your own life. Learning from everything. Have you ever noticed how even a falling leaf can teach a profound lesson? It might seem simple at first, a leaf detaching from its branch, floating gently to the ground. But if you pause and really observe, there's wisdom hidden in that small, quiet moment. Life speaks to us in subtle ways, and sometimes the greatest lessons come not from books or lectures, but from the world around us. I remember a story about a young meditation student who spent hours sitting under a tree every morning, observing the leaves. At first, it seemed trivial, almost mundane. But over time, the student began to notice patterns, the way each leaf had its own path, influenced by the wind, the branches, even the shape of the tree itself. Some leaves fell quickly, others drifted slowly, but none resisted their natural course. In that simple act of watching, the student learned patience, the inevitability of change, and the beauty of letting go. In Buddhist philosophy, these lessons are deeply significant. Wisdom isn't just acquired through reading scriptures or memorizing teachings. It arises from lived experience, from observing impermanence in nature and in ourselves. Each moment is an opportunity to learn, if we are open to noticing it. Just like the leaves, life moves in cycles. People come and go, situations change, feelings rise and fall. And yet, in all this change, there is a rhythm, a subtle guidance that can teach us resilience, adaptability, and compassion. Have you ever stopped to think about the lessons hidden in your everyday surroundings? The way rain nurtures the earth teaches us care and nourishment. The quiet patience of a slowly growing tree reminds us that growth cannot be rushed. Even the sound of a bird singing, fleeting yet beautiful, teaches us to appreciate the present. Each observation, if met with attention, becomes a mirror reflecting insights about ourselves and our journey. One of the most powerful aspects of learning from the world around us is that it cultivates humility. Nature does not compete, it does not boast, it simply is. The wind does not ask permission, yet it moves mountains and carries seeds to new places. The sun does not demand recognition, yet it sustains life. Observing these simple truths helps us let go of our ego-driven expectations and teaches us that wisdom often emerges quietly, without fanfare. I often reflect on my own experiences walking through forests or sitting by rivers. The lessons are endless, but they are not always obvious at first glance. A rock, worn smooth by centuries of water, reminds me of persistence. A fallen tree, returning nutrients to the soil, reminds me of generosity and renewal. Even the tiniest insects have their roles, reminding us that every life, every action, has meaning. These are not just poetic observations, they are invitations to connect, to notice, to learn, and ultimately, to grow. The beauty of learning from everything around us is that it requires no special tools, no formal classroom. All it asks for is presence and attention. It asks us to open our eyes and our hearts, to slow down, and to observe the flow of life with curiosity and respect. By doing so, we train ourselves to see more deeply, to understand more fully, and to act more wisely. So how can we bring this into daily life? Start small. Take a few minutes each day to truly observe something ordinary. A leaf, a drop of rain, the movement of shadows across the floor. Ask yourself, what can this teach me? Reflect on impermanence, on change, on patience. Allow the experience to sink in, to influence your thoughts, emotions, and actions. Over time, you'll find that wisdom begins to emerge naturally, quietly shaping the way you see the world. In Buddhist teachings, the practice of mindfulness emphasizes this very idea, that every moment, no matter how simple, holds potential for insight. By paying attention, by learning from what surrounds us, we cultivate understanding, compassion, and clarity. Each observation becomes a lesson, each experience a teacher. And slowly, the ordinary becomes extraordinary, the everyday becomes sacred. So today, I invite you to open your eyes and your heart. Observe the world around you with curiosity and attention. Notice the subtle lessons in nature, in your interactions, in the rhythm of daily life. Even the smallest moment, a leaf falling, a breeze passing, a quiet sunrise, can teach something valuable. Open your mind, open your heart, and learn from everything. Every moment is a lesson, and every experience a chance to grow. Remember, wisdom isn't just in books. It's in life itself. It's in the flow of the river, the sway of the branches, the dance of the seasons. When we learn from everything, we cultivate insight not as an abstract concept, but as a lived experience, quietly shaping who we are and how we move through the world. So take a moment, look closely, and allow the world to teach you, because every leaf, every breath, and every step has a lesson waiting to be discovered. Sharing knowledge, planting seeds of wisdom. Imagine a simple yet powerful image, someone handing a book to another person. That single gesture, so ordinary at first glance, carries a profound lesson. Knowledge, like sunlight or water, grows stronger when shared. It does not diminish when given away. Instead, it multiplies, spreading understanding and insight to those who receive it. I remember a story about a teacher who always encouraged students to share what they learned with others. One day, a student hesitated. "But I am not an expert," the student said. "What if I teach something incorrectly?" The teacher smiled and replied, "Knowledge is not meant to be hoarded. Even a small seed of understanding, when shared, can grow in ways you cannot predict. The act of sharing itself nurtures both the giver and the receiver." This principle is deeply rooted in Buddhist thought. The teaching of DNA, generosity, reminds us that giving is not limited to material possessions. Giving knowledge, sharing wisdom, and offering guidance are all forms of generosity. When we share what we know, we plant seeds of wisdom in others. And as these seeds take root, they can blossom into insights, actions, and understanding that ripple far beyond what we can imagine. Think about your own life. How often have you learned something that truly changed the way you see the world, and then kept it to yourself? Imagine if, instead, you shared that knowledge with a friend, a colleague, or even a stranger. That insight could spark new ways of thinking, inspire courage, or help someone overcome a challenge. Knowledge, like light, grows brighter when it illuminates more than just one mind. I've had personal experiences where sharing what I learned created unexpected connections and opportunities. For instance, I once shared a simple meditation technique with a coworker who was struggling with stress. A few weeks later, that same coworker came back and shared how the practice had changed their perspective, helping them approach challenges with more calm and clarity. That small act of sharing did not just help someone else, it enriched my own understanding and reinforced the truth that giving knowledge is also a form of learning. Of course, sharing knowledge isn't always easy. It can be intimidating to speak up, to offer guidance, or to teach something you're still learning yourself. But here's the thing: wisdom doesn't require perfection. Every idea you share, every lesson you pass on, is a gift. Even if incomplete, it can inspire curiosity and growth in someone else. And in that act of giving, you deepen your own understanding. This is the beautiful reciprocity of knowledge. The more you give, the more it grows within you and around you. In life, knowledge is rarely meant to be solitary. Think about the greatest discoveries, inventions, and teachings throughout history. They all began with someone sharing an insight. A student asked a question, a teacher offered an answer, a friend shared a story. Each act of sharing sparked curiosity, prompted reflection, and expanded the circle of understanding. And in this way, wisdom spreads, not as something hoarded, but as a living, breathing force, moving through conversations, actions, and relationships. So how can we practice this in our daily lives? Start with small gestures. Share a book, a helpful article, a piece of advice, or even a story that taught you something meaningful. Encourage others to ask questions, explore ideas, and reflect. Listen when they respond, and allow the dialogue to become a mutual exchange of insight. Over time, this creates a community of learning, where wisdom is not confined to one person, but becomes a shared treasure, accessible to all who are willing to engage. Buddhist teachings remind us, give, and you shall receive. But this is not a transactional statement. It is a reflection of the natural flow of generosity and understanding. When you share knowledge, you enrich the world and yourself. Each seed of insight you plant can grow into new awareness, understanding, and even compassion, in ways you might never witness directly. The act of giving knowledge is, in itself, a practice of wisdom. So today, I invite you to look around. Consider what you have learned, however small or simple, and think about how it might help someone else. Share a thought, offer a tip, or simply discuss an idea that inspired you. Notice the ripple effects, how a single shared insight can spark curiosity, understanding, and growth far beyond what you imagined. By giving freely, by planting seeds of wisdom, you contribute to a brighter, more enlightened world. Remember, knowledge is not meant to be hoarded. Each time you share what you know, you light a path for others and for yourself. Every conversation, every lesson passed along, is an opportunity to nurture understanding, cultivate insight, and spread wisdom. So open your hands, open your heart, and plant the seeds of knowledge. The world will be brighter, wiser, and more connected because of it. Self-learning and self-reflection. Those who do not reflect will lose their way, and those who do not learn will lose their wisdom. Have you ever paused to think about what this really means? In the rush of our daily lives, we often focus on accumulating knowledge, skills, or experiences, yet we forget the most important journey, the journey within. True wisdom doesn't start with external learning alone. It begins when we learn to observe, reflect, and understand ourselves. I recall a story about a young student of Buddhist teachings who was eager to learn everything from books, teachers, and scriptures. Every day, they would read, memorize, and attend lectures, absorbing information like a sponge. Yet, after months of study, the student felt an emptiness, a sense that understanding remained superficial. One day, a teacher asked them to sit quietly, close their eyes, and simply observe their thoughts, feelings, and reactions. "Look within," the teacher said. "See yourself clearly before you try to understand the world." At first, the student struggled. The mind wandered. Emotions rose and fell unpredictably. But gradually, through patient self-observation, the student began to notice patterns, recurring fears, habitual reactions, moments of pride or impatience. With each observation, a new awareness emerged, a gentle clarity about their own mind. They realized that learning externally was only part of the process. The true depth of wisdom came from turning attention inward, reflecting on one's own mind, and learning from personal experience. In Buddhist philosophy, this practice of self-reflection is called self-awareness or self-examination. It is the foundation of wisdom. Knowledge from outside, books, teachers, lectures, offers guidance, but without internal reflection, it remains like a map without a compass. The journey inward allows us to integrate what we learn externally, transforming information into understanding, and understanding into insight. Have you ever asked yourself, why did I react that way? Or what motivates my decisions? These questions are at the heart of self-reflection. By exploring our responses, biases, and emotions, we cultivate clarity and discernment. This is not about self-criticism. It is about honest observation. It's about seeing ourselves as we are, without judgment, and learning how to grow from that awareness. Self-learning is equally essential. True learners do not wait for knowledge to come to them. They actively seek it, question it, and test it through experience. And self-reflection complements this by asking, how does this knowledge apply to me? How can I use it to live more wisely and compassionately? The combination of external learning and internal reflection creates a dynamic cycle. We learn, reflect, adjust, and deepen our understanding continuously. I've personally experienced how powerful this can be. In moments of frustration or confusion, taking time to pause, breathe, and examine my own reactions has often revealed insights that no external lesson could provide. For example, I once became angry during a team project. Initially, I blamed others and felt justified in my frustration. But by stepping back and reflecting, I noticed my own impatience and fear of failure. This awareness didn't excuse my behavior, but it allowed me to respond more skillfully, with patience and understanding. Learning from within is, in many ways, the most practical and transformative kind of wisdom. One important point to remember: self-learning and self-reflection are ongoing practices. There is no end point. Each day presents new experiences, challenges, and opportunities for insight. By consistently observing ourselves, questioning our assumptions, and integrating new knowledge, we cultivate a resilient, adaptable wisdom. It is a wisdom that guides actions, shapes character, and illuminates the path forward, even amidst uncertainty. So how can we practice this in daily life? Start with simple steps. Take a few minutes each day to reflect on your thoughts and actions. Ask honest questions. Why did I feel this way? What triggered my response? How could I act differently next time? Write down insights if it helps. Meditate, breathe, or simply sit in silence and observe. Over time, these small acts of reflection develop into a powerful habit of self-awareness and continuous learning. Buddhist teachings remind us, learn from the outside, reflect from the inside. External knowledge alone is incomplete. Real wisdom emerges when we integrate learning with self-observation, when understanding transforms into insight, and insight transforms into mindful action. By turning our gaze inward, we discover the roots of our choices, the patterns of our mind, and the possibilities for growth. Today, I invite you to embark on this inward journey. Pay attention to your thoughts, emotions, and reactions. Seek knowledge from outside, but always balance it with reflection within. Ask yourself, what can this teach me about myself? With patience and openness, you'll find that wisdom is not merely the accumulation of information. It is a living awareness, a quiet, guiding presence that shapes how you experience life. Remember, learning is not only about what you take in, it is also about how you understand yourself. Observe, reflect, and grow. The mind that is aware of itself becomes a source of clarity, insight, and true intelligence. By practicing self-learning and self-reflection, you cultivate a wisdom that guides you through challenges, illuminates your path, and enriches every moment of your life. Patience is the key. Imagine a bamboo shoot breaking through the soil. At first, it seems almost invisible, timid, as if it barely exists. Yet, beneath the surface, its roots are spreading deep and wide, preparing to support a tall, resilient plant. This is the perfect metaphor for wisdom and growth. True understanding doesn't appear instantly. It develops slowly, quietly, and steadily, much like the bamboo that eventually soars high above the forest. We live in a culture of instant results. We want answers immediately, solutions now, success yesterday. But wisdom, real, lasting wisdom, is different. It cannot be rushed, forced, or fabricated. It is cultivated through consistent practice, patient observation, and the willingness to endure the slow unfolding of understanding. In Buddhist teachings, patience is considered one of the essential virtues, because it allows insight to grow organically. Without patience, even the most eager mind may become frustrated and give up before its potential is realized. Let me share a story from the lives of Zen monks. There was a young monk who came to the monastery seeking enlightenment. He studied the sutras, meditated diligently, and asked countless questions of his teacher. Yet months passed, then years, and he felt no closer to understanding. Frustrated, he considered leaving. But his teacher gently reminded him, "The bamboo does not emerge overnight. Every day, every breath, every mindful step you take nourishes the roots of your wisdom. Continue patiently." Over time, the young monk realized that enlightenment was not a destination to reach quickly, but a path to walk with patience, moment by moment. Slowly, subtly, he began to notice insights arising naturally, insights that could not have been forced. Patience is more than waiting. It is an active, mindful practice. It involves embracing the process, appreciating small progress, and trusting that growth happens gradually. In life, this means accepting that learning, self-understanding, and even skill development take time. The mind needs repetition, reflection, and quiet attention to mature. Just as a tree strengthens with each season, each trial, and each year, our wisdom deepens when nurtured patiently. Consider your own experiences. How often have you given up on learning a new skill, understanding a complex idea, or changing a habit because results didn't come immediately? And yet, if you had continued just a little longer, practiced just a little more, the reward might have been closer than you thought. Patience is the soil in which the seeds of insight take root. Every moment of focused effort, every repeated action, every thoughtful reflection contributes to growth, even if it seems invisible at first. There is also a subtle beauty in the slow unfolding of wisdom. When knowledge comes too quickly, it can be superficial, lacking depth. But when it develops gradually, it integrates deeply with experience. Each lesson is tested, each insight tempered, and each understanding becomes resilient. This is why teachers emphasize consistency and perseverance in practice. They know that wisdom, like bamboo, needs time to grow strong before it can withstand storms. In practical terms, cultivating patience can look like this: setting aside time each day for mindful practice, whether through meditation, reflection, or studying teachings. It can mean being patient with your mistakes, your misunderstandings, and even with the people around you. It is a willingness to continue, day after day, without being attached to immediate outcomes. And over time, this patience transforms the mind, allowing clarity, insight, and understanding to blossom naturally. I've personally experienced the power of patient practice. In moments when I felt stuck or frustrated, simply committing to showing up, doing the work, and allowing things to unfold at their own pace often revealed lessons I would have missed in haste. Sometimes, the insight emerges only after years of quiet dedication, yet when it does, it carries a depth that fleeting knowledge could never provide. Patience creates that depth. Patience allows the mind to mature, like bamboo roots spreading deep into the earth. So today, I invite you to embrace patience, not as a passive waiting, but as an active, mindful cultivation. Notice your own growth, even the smallest steps. Trust that every day you invest in learning, reflecting, and practicing is contributing to the roots of wisdom. Each breath, each thoughtful action, each calm response in the face of difficulty nourishes your understanding. And like bamboo, when the time is right, your growth will rise strong and unwavering, visible to yourself and the world. Remember, wisdom is not a race. It is a journey of steady effort, reflection, and mindful practice. Every slow step, every patient day, is a seed of insight taking root. Allow yourself to grow gradually, trust the process, and honor the rhythm of learning. Patience is not just waiting, it is cultivating, nurturing, and believing in the unseen potential within yourself. And as you practice this patience, you'll discover that every moment of persistence, every mindful action, every deliberate pause, brings the seeds of wisdom closer to sprouting. In the end, remember the bamboo: strong, flexible, and patient. Each step of your journey, no matter how small, is part of a process that builds resilience, clarity, and understanding. So take a deep breath, trust in your path, and continue patiently. Every day, every effort, every mindful action is a seed of wisdom ready to grow. Learning without attachment. When you let go, wisdom can arrive. Have you ever noticed that the mind often resists learning when it clings too tightly? We live in a world where achievement, recognition, and status are constantly highlighted. Yet true understanding, the kind that transforms how we live, cannot flourish when it's entangled with pride or the desire for approval. Wisdom comes most fully when we learn without attachment, without ego, and without the need to prove ourselves. I recall a story of a dedicated Buddhist student who was eager to gain knowledge. They studied diligently, asked insightful questions, and absorbed teachings quickly. At first, they felt proud of their progress, relishing the recognition from teachers and peers. But over time, they noticed that despite all this learning, their insight felt shallow. Something was missing. The teacher observed this and offered gentle guidance. True learning is like water flowing into a vessel. If the vessel is rigid, filled with pride and expectations, the water cannot settle. But if the vessel is open, humble, and receptive, the water nourishes and fills it fully. This principle resonates deeply with Buddhist teachings about anatta, or selflessness. In learning, there is no place for ego or attachment. When we cling to knowledge for status, personal gain, or validation, it becomes rigid, and its true potential is blocked. But when we learn with humility, curiosity, and an open heart, knowledge seeps in naturally, shaping us quietly and profoundly. It transforms not because we force it, but because we allow ourselves to receive it fully. Think about your own experiences. Have you ever tried to learn something while simultaneously worrying about how it would look to others, or how it might benefit your reputation? Often, that very concern interferes with absorption and understanding. When we let go of these attachments, when we focus simply on learning for the sake of understanding, the process itself becomes liberating. Each insight is integrated, not as a trophy, but as a living part of our awareness. I've seen this principle in action in my own life. Once, while studying a challenging meditation practice, I found myself frustrated by comparisons with others. How quickly they advanced, how easily they seemed to grasp concepts I struggled with. It took a conscious effort to release attachment to speed, progress, and recognition. Slowly, as I let go of those concerns, the practice began to resonate deeply. Insights emerged naturally, and the lessons I had been chasing suddenly became clear. This is the essence of learning without attachment, allowing knowledge to take root on its own terms, without forcing or controlling it. Humility in learning also creates space for continuous growth. When we believe we already know, we close the door to further understanding. But when we approach every lesson with openness, curiosity, and willingness to question, we invite wisdom to deepen endlessly. True learners are like empty vessels ready to receive, ready to transform, and ready to serve others with what they have learned. Consider the subtle but profound difference between learning to boast and learning to understand. The first seeks admiration, while the second seeks clarity. One elevates the ego, the other elevates insight. Buddhist teachers often emphasize that wisdom is not measured by how much you know, but by how deeply knowledge transforms your heart and actions. Learning without attachment is a practice in letting go, not of curiosity, but of the need for recognition, control, or validation. So how can we cultivate this in daily life? Start by observing your intentions. When you read, study, or engage in a discussion, ask yourself, am I learning to truly understand or to impress? Notice moments when pride, fear, or comparison arise. Gently release them. Approach each lesson with openness, gratitude, and a willingness to be shaped by what you encounter. Over time, you'll find that knowledge integrates more deeply, guiding decisions, shaping perspective, and enhancing the quality of your life in ways that accolades never could. Learning without attachment also nurtures compassion and generosity. When knowledge is free from ego, it naturally flows outward. We share what we understand freely, without expectation, without competition, and without the need for recognition. Just as a river nourishes all along its course without demanding gratitude, wisdom shared in this way enriches others effortlessly, creating ripples that extend far beyond our immediate awareness. Buddhist teachings remind us, receive knowledge with an open heart, let go of self and attachment. Each lesson, each insight, is a gift, not a possession, not a trophy. By releasing attachment, we allow wisdom to enter fully, gently shaping our minds and hearts. By doing so, we cultivate clarity, humility, and freedom, the true markers of a wise life. So today, I invite you to reflect on your own learning. Notice where attachments may be blocking your understanding. Release the need to impress, to control, or to gain. Open your heart fully to the lessons available, large or small. Allow knowledge to settle naturally, quietly, and deeply. By learning without attachment, you create space for genuine wisdom to emerge, ready to guide you, transform you, and inspire those around you. Remember, when you let go, wisdom arrives. When the mind is open, curious, and free from ego, knowledge is no longer a burden or a tool for recognition. It becomes a living, breathing source of insight, shaping your life with clarity, compassion, and understanding. Let go, open your heart, and allow the seeds of wisdom to grow. The power of asking the right question. One well-placed question can be worth 1,000 incorrect answers. Have you ever paused to consider how often we search for answers without first asking the right questions? In our rush to learn, achieve, or understand, we sometimes chase solutions blindly, never stopping to reflect on what we truly need to know. Yet, wisdom begins not with the answers, but with the courage to ask deeply, thoughtfully, and honestly. There is a story of a wise sage who was sought after by many. Students and followers came with questions, expecting immediate answers and guidance. But the sage rarely responded directly. Instead, he asked them questions in return, simple yet profound, often leaving them thinking long after they left. Why do you seek this answer? What do you truly wish to understand? Have you observed yourself as closely as you observe the world? Through these questions, the students learned far more than any single answer could provide. They discovered clarity, insight, and self-awareness, an understanding that could not be given but had to be awakened from within. This approach highlights a central teaching in Buddhist philosophy. Wisdom begins with inquiry. Challenging, thoughtful questioning is the seed of insight. Without it, knowledge remains superficial, memorized but not understood. When we ask the right questions, we illuminate the blind spots in our thinking, we reveal assumptions, and we open the door to deeper understanding. Every question is a potential spark, lighting the path toward clarity. Consider your own life. How often do we ask questions that really matter? Not questions to impress others or to seek validation, but questions that probe our hearts, our minds, and our understanding. For example, instead of asking, "How can I be successful?" we might ask, "What does success truly mean to me?" Or rather than asking, "What do I need to gain?" we could ask, "What can I learn from this moment?" These are the kinds of questions that guide real transformation, questions that challenge us to look within and beyond, that awaken insight rather than merely satisfy curiosity. I've found personally that some of the most profound lessons in life come not from answers, but from the questions themselves. During moments of uncertainty or challenge, asking the right question can shift perspective entirely. When faced with a difficult decision, instead of asking, "What will others think?" I learned to ask, "What is the wisest action I can take in this moment?" That subtle change in the question transformed how I approach challenges, guiding my mind with clarity and compassion. Asking the right questions also nurtures humility. It reminds us that no one, not even a teacher or expert, has all the answers. It encourages us to explore, to reflect, and to grow. The act of questioning is an invitation to self-discovery, a recognition that understanding is a journey rather than a destination. In this way, every inquiry becomes a meditation, a process of cultivating awareness and insight. But how do we learn to ask the right questions? Start by slowing down. Observe situations, thoughts, and feelings before reacting. Pay attention to your curiosity. When something sparks interest, dig deeper. Instead of seeking immediate answers, explore, why does this matter to me? What assumptions am I making? What am I overlooking? Over time, you'll notice that asking well-placed questions becomes natural, and with it, understanding deepens. There's also a subtle art in asking questions without attachment to the answer. The goal is not to arrive at a specific conclusion, but to open the mind and heart. In Buddhist practice, this reflects the principle of non-grasping. Wisdom grows when we inquire freely, without clinging to outcomes or rigid expectations. By letting go of the need for a quick solution, we allow insight to emerge organically, revealing truths that are often hidden from a mind that demands certainty. Questions can also be transformative in relationships, work, and personal growth. Asking someone genuinely, "How do you see this?" or "What is your perspective?" creates space for understanding and connection. Asking ourselves, "What can I learn from this situation?" turns every challenge into a lesson, every conflict into an opportunity for reflection. In essence, questions are bridges between confusion and clarity, between ignorance and wisdom, between ego and understanding. So today, I invite you to cultivate the courage to ask. Ask boldly, deeply, and with openness. Notice where your questions are shallow or habitual, and gently transform them into inquiries that challenge your assumptions, expand your awareness, and awaken your insight. Every meaningful question you ask is a seed, small, subtle, yet powerful enough to grow into understanding, wisdom, and clarity. Remember, wisdom is not only about finding the right answer, it begins with daring to ask the right question. By questioning thoughtfully, observing deeply, and reflecting sincerely, you cultivate a mind that sees clearly, a heart that understands compassionately, and a life guided by true insight. So take a moment today, ask a question that matters, and watch as your mind opens, your perspective shifts, and your wisdom begins to blossom. Because in the end, one profound question is far more valuable than 1,000 answers given without understanding. Be courageous. Ask. And let your intelligence, insight, and understanding grow from the fertile soil of curiosity and inquiry. Gratitude for knowledge. Imagine a student bowing gently before a book, not out of ritual alone, but from a deep recognition that every page, every lesson, every word holds a gift. This gesture symbolizes something profound: gratitude for knowledge. In our fast-paced world, it's easy to take learning for granted, to skim, to memorize, to consume information without truly appreciating it. Yet wisdom is nourished not only by study and experience but also by the humility and gratitude we bring to the act of learning. Gratitude for knowledge is at the heart of Buddhist philosophy. It is the acknowledgement that wisdom does not emerge in isolation. It arises through teachers who guide us, texts that convey insight, life experiences that challenge us, and the very circumstances that compel us to reflect. Each of these is a seed of understanding, and gratitude is the light that helps those seeds grow. Without it, even the most abundant knowledge can feel hollow, disconnected from meaning. Let me share a story. A young monk once asked his teacher how to gain wisdom. The teacher replied, "Bow to the sun each morning, to the earth beneath your feet, and to every lesson life offers. Only with gratitude will knowledge take root and bear fruit." The monk took this to heart, cultivating a daily practice of reflection and appreciation. Over time, he discovered that gratitude transformed the way he learned. Challenges became opportunities, mistakes became teachers, and every small insight felt like a treasure. Gratitude did not just enhance his understanding, it changed how he experienced life. Think about your own learning journey. How often do we pause to recognize the sources of our knowledge? Consider the teacher who inspired you, the book that opened your mind, the experience that tested you, or even the failure that humbled you. Each of these contributes to your growth, and by acknowledging them with gratitude, you create fertile soil for wisdom to flourish. Gratitude turns learning into a sacred practice, rather than a mere accumulation of facts or skills. Gratitude also cultivates humility. It reminds us that no matter how much we know, we are always part of a larger web of support, insight, and influence. Even the greatest scholars and thinkers are indebted to the teachers, texts, and experiences that shape them. In this light, learning is not a solo journey. It is a shared, interconnected process. Recognizing this interconnectedness through gratitude allows wisdom to deepen and become more compassionate. I've personally experienced this in moments when I paused to reflect on what I had learned. There were times when I struggled with a complex idea or a challenging practice. At first, frustration dominated my mind. But when I took a moment to appreciate the resources around me, the guidance of a teacher, the clarity of a text, the opportunity to learn, I felt a shift. The struggle became meaningful, the challenge became manageable, and insights emerged naturally. Gratitude created space for understanding to grow where impatience or entitlement might have blocked it. Practically speaking, cultivating gratitude for knowledge can take many forms. It could be a quiet moment each day to reflect on what you've learned, a note of thanks to a teacher or mentor, or a mindful acknowledgement of the lessons life delivers. You might even pause before reading a new book or engaging in study to silently appreciate the opportunity to expand your mind. Over time, these small acts of acknowledgement accumulate, shaping a mindset that is open, humble, and receptive. Gratitude also turns knowledge into action. When we truly appreciate what we learn, we are more likely to share it, to apply it, and to use it to benefit others. A lesson understood without gratitude can easily become prideful or disconnected, but a lesson received with thankfulness naturally radiates outward. In this way, gratitude acts as a bridge, connecting personal insight with compassionate action in the world. Ask yourself, what knowledge has shaped you most? Who or what deserves your gratitude for the lessons that guided you? How might expressing appreciation transform your learning and your life? Reflecting on these questions can reveal the depth of wisdom hidden in everyday experiences. Gratitude is not just a polite acknowledgement, it is a lens through which learning becomes rich, alive, and transformative. So today, I invite you to cultivate gratitude for knowledge. Bow, metaphorically or literally, to the sources of your learning. Recognize the teachers, the texts, the experiences, and even the challenges that have contributed to your understanding. Allow this appreciation to deepen your insights, enrich your reflections, and guide your actions. When we honor knowledge with gratitude, it becomes more than information. It becomes living wisdom, ready to shape our hearts, our minds, and our lives. Remember, every book you read, every lesson you learn, every moment of reflection is a seed of wisdom. By embracing gratitude, you water these seeds, helping them grow into clarity, understanding, and compassionate insight. Cherish what you learn, for in doing so, you are not only nurturing your own growth but also sowing seeds of wisdom that may ripple out to the world. Gratitude illuminates the path of learning. It transforms knowledge from mere words into insight, from information into understanding, and from experience into wisdom. So pause, reflect, and give thanks. Honor the gifts of knowledge, and let them guide you to a life enriched with clarity, purpose, and compassion. Sowing seeds of wisdom today. A small action today can change the course of tomorrow. Have you ever considered that each decision, each act of learning, and each moment of reflection can plant a seed that grows far beyond what we can see? In our journey through curiosity, attentive listening, self-reflection, sharing knowledge, patience, humility, asking the right questions, and gratitude, we have uncovered the many ways wisdom can blossom. Today, we gather all these threads to understand how to actively sow seeds of wisdom in our daily lives. Imagine a simple moment. You offer a kind word, share a helpful insight, or patiently guide someone struggling to understand. These acts may seem small, even insignificant, but in truth, each is a seed of wisdom. Just as a single seed can grow into a vast tree, capable of giving shade, fruit, and shelter, a single act of insight or kindness can ripple outward, touching lives in ways you may never witness. In Buddhist philosophy, this is the essence of skillful action. Mindful choices rooted in awareness and compassion create effects that extend far beyond the present moment. Think back to our first lesson, curiosity. That spark of why that we nurture is the very foundation of wisdom. Every question we ask, every moment of genuine inquiry, is a seed waiting to sprout. Curiosity drives exploration and fuels learning, but only if we water it with attention, openness, and humility. Pair that with attentive listening, truly hearing others, hearing the world, and hearing ourselves, and those seeds find fertile ground. Listening without judgment, with mindfulness and presence, allows insight to take root and deepen. Next comes the act of sharing. Knowledge hoarded is knowledge limited. When we freely share what we learn, through teaching, storytelling, or simply helping someone understand, we multiply the impact of our wisdom. This is where gratitude and humility play a crucial role. Recognizing that our learning is built on the guidance of others, the richness of life experiences, and the teachings we have received, we naturally feel called to give back. The gratitude we cultivate transforms learning into a living, breathing practice, one that nourishes both ourselves and the world around us. Patience is the quiet water that allows seeds to grow. Wisdom does not emerge instantly. Like a bamboo shoot that grows silently for years before reaching the light, our understanding requires time, persistence, and steady effort. Moments of struggle, uncertainty, and even failure are not obstacles. They are the compost that enriches the soil, making the growth of insight possible. When we cultivate patience, we learn to honor the slow unfolding of wisdom, rather than demanding immediate results. Humility and letting go, the practice of non-attachment, ensures that our learning does not become a source of ego or pride. By releasing the need for recognition or ownership, we allow knowledge to flow freely, to be absorbed and applied where it is needed most. In asking the right questions, we open doors that answers alone cannot unlock. Courageous inquiry challenges assumptions, uncovers hidden truths, and cultivates clarity that guides both thought and action. So, what does it mean to sow seeds of wisdom today? It begins with small, conscious choices, asking a thoughtful question instead of making a hasty judgment, sharing an insight with sincerity, practicing patience when understanding feels slow, and expressing gratitude for every lesson life offers. These actions may appear ordinary, even subtle, but their impact is extraordinary. They create a ripple effect, touching not only our own lives but the lives of everyone around us. Consider this: the world is a garden, and each of us holds seeds. The way we cultivate them, through curiosity, listening, sharing, patience, humility, inquiry, and gratitude, determines whether the garden flourishes or withers. By choosing to plant wisely, by nurturing our understanding and acting with mindfulness, we contribute to a world where knowledge, compassion, and insight grow in abundance. I invite you to reflect on your daily life. Where can you plant a seed of wisdom today? Perhaps it is a conversation where you truly listen. Perhaps it is taking time to understand before reacting. Perhaps it is sharing a lesson, offering guidance, or showing appreciation for someone's teaching. These small acts are profound. They embody the principle that even the simplest gesture can have far-reaching effects. Ultimately, sowing seeds of wisdom is about living consciously. It is about recognizing the power of each moment, each choice, and each interaction to contribute to a life of insight, compassion, and clarity. When we embrace this practice, we not only cultivate our own understanding but also inspire others to awaken their own potential. Wisdom becomes contagious, spreading quietly but powerfully, shaping a world that is brighter, more mindful, and more compassionate. So today, make the conscious choice to sow seeds of wisdom. Ask, listen, share, reflect, and give thanks. Let patience guide you, humility ground you, and thoughtful questioning open new paths. Each action is a seed planted in the fertile soil of life, destined to grow in ways you may never fully see, but rest assured, it will flourish. And remember, the seeds you plant today shape the garden of tomorrow. Every act of insight, every moment of mindful attention, every gesture of gratitude contributes to a future rich with understanding and compassion. Sow wisely. Sow with heart. And in our next video, we will explore how these seeds of wisdom illuminate the path to inner happiness and lasting fulfillment. Because true wisdom is not just knowledge, it is the living, breathing practice of planting, nurturing, and sharing the seeds that will bloom long after we have walked on.